Welcome back. Join me while I break down another movie plot. Enjoy the memories and watch out for spoilers. In the ruins of an old church down in Mexico, a scavenger finds the head of the spear that pierced Jesus Christ himself. Manuel is suddenly possessed and ignores his friend while walking out in front of a car totaling him, though that doesn't stop him as a mark burns into his arm and he hops up and runs away. He heads to the border between countries and leaps into the States, marching towards Los Angeles, killing everything in his path. An LA woman has just discovered her daughter rolling around possessed and calls in a priest. A cynical professional in all things supernatural shows up in the form of John Constantine, having been alerted by his drunk friend Father Hennessy. During the exorcism, the full-fledged demon begins to claw its way out of the girl trying to get to Earth. John uses a mirror suspended above them to transfer it into something more disposable. Then before it can gain entry to Earth, he launches it into the street through a window, shattering it. After a successful mission, John goes to his house full of occult artifacts and guarded by runes. He is suffering from terminal lung cancer and despite his doctor's warnings he refuses to quit. Divine objects are delivered to John at his home by Beeman, supplying him with holy items such as screech beetles that sound like nails on a chalkboard to demons, and a tube of dragon's breath. The treaty between heaven and hell's been broken with this recent attempted crossover, as only half-breeds are allowed to walk the earth and the two friends are worried. Constantine's driven around everywhere by his apprentice Chaz, who drops him off at a nearby church to meet with a half-breed angel named Gabriel. John was born with the ability to see angels and demons, and it has haunted him his whole life. He assumes for all the good he does on earth he'll be sent to heaven as a reward, but Gabriel claims that he cannot buy his way into heaven and will surely go to hell for the life he once took. Constantine briefly meets a police officer in passing named Angela Dodson, who's come to the church to speak with a priest about her sister's recent passing. Angela arrived that morning at work to find herself staring at the face of her twin sister Isabel, having jumped from the roof of the mental hospital that she was a regular patient of. Despite her sister's ailments, she refuses to believe Isabel'd condemn herself to hell, as she was a devout Catholic, but the priest says later. John decides to walk home from the church and picks some cough medicine up on the way, when he is attacked by a true demon of the creepy-crawly variety. It'd easily kill him, but the screech beetles wail away from inside their tiny matchbox, causing the demon to be disorientated long enough for John to lower it into some traffic, giving it a windshield exorcism. John seeks out the assistance of a nightclub owner, whose place serves as neutral ground between angels and demons ever since the peace treaty was established. The former witch doctor Papa Midnight insists that John must be mistaken about the demon crossing over. He's under the impression that the treaty is still holding strong, and that half-breeds are still only allowed to influence people, not get directly involved. As John's leaving, he passes the half-demon Balthazar arriving for a meeting with Midnight. Angela goes over security footage and hears Isabel say the name Constantine, so she seeks out and finds John to have a word. Angie explains to the complete stranger that the reason her sister was committed is because she became paranoid talking about angels and demons. Since she was already considered crazy, John just assumes there was no foul play and kicks Angela out of the apartment with a lazy sorry. A few moments later, a swarm of shadows fly past his apartment, so he chases her back down. He breaks down that angels and demons are all real, but Angela isn't the religious type and doesn't want to hear it. Suddenly the power goes out for the whole block except for a statue of Mary in a window. Wings are heard around them as the two huddle closer to the last light. As it finally goes out, John uses holy fire to burn the large swarm of trespassers and send them all back to hell. They go back to Angela's apartment and perform a ritual to find out if her sister went to hell. Constantine uses a cat and a bucket of water as a conduit while Angie waits outside for him to transport himself to the inferno. He walks through the underworld searching for Isabel while the dead are shown to be tortured in droves below him. Before the demons catch his scent, John locates Isabel and gets hold of her hospital wristband before smashing a vial of holy water to bring him back to Earth. Angela barely got to close the door and it felt like John was only gone for a split second, but the band confirms to her that her sister did in fact jump. They go replenish their tank while John explains the wager between God and Satan, that angels and demons can only possess and influence humans but have been getting a bit handsy lately. He tells her that he has always been able to see demons and once even tried to end his own life. He was saved by the first responders but died for a minute, which feels like an eternity in hell as time almost freezes. Due to taking a life, he must now atone in hopes of getting into heaven, as the more demons he exorcises on earth the more enemies he makes in hell. Just then Angela gets a call to a crime scene and the two leave. Father Hennessy's capable of communicating with the dead, and started drinking as a means to keep the voices away. Since things have gotten bad, John had asked him to stop drinking so he could receive prophetic visions of what's to come. Hennessy discovers the same symbol hidden on Isabel's wrist that was on Manuel at the beginning. Suddenly his drink refuses to touch his lips. He goes to a nearby store and attempts to drink anything he can, but it all pauses just before reaching his mouth, sending him mad. Balthazar has cursed Hennessy, who unknowingly drowns himself in all the drinks without tasting a drop. John and Angela get to the crime scene and find that Hennessy had carved the demonic symbol into his hand for them to find. They go to the hospital to look around Isabel's room and locate a hidden clue that only a sister would know about, referencing a chapter of the Bible only available in Hell's edition. Beeman looks up the symbol for them in a copy of Hell's Bible and finds out that the demons are working for Satan's son Mammon, who, after growing tired of his father's rule, plans to usurp him and create his own kingdom on earth. In order for the Antichrist to cross over, he needs to possess a powerful psychic like Isabel, which is the reason she was willing to send herself to hell to prevent him from coming to earth. Though Mammon also requires what the Bible describes as divine assistance, in other words, God's help. They race over to Beeman's to find that they are too late, as he has already had a visit from Balthazar. Back at John's apartment, Angela reveals that she once possessed the same psychic gift that Isabel did. She would lie to everyone and tell them she can't see demons to avoid being called insane, until eventually one day she just couldn't see them anymore. At Angela's request, John helps her reawaken her suppressed powers so that she can see the supernatural once again. He again uses water to lubricate the transition and induces a near-death experience. The bathtub shatters and Angela rises with the gift once again, then uses a feeling she has to discover Beeman's killer, as he had dropped his keepsake. John uses some objects around Beeman's office to turn his dragon fire into a holy shotgun. And the two head down to Balthazar's office for revenge. While the half-demon admires his skin suit, John attacks him using said holy shotgun. Then when he drops it, he switches to a pair of rune-engraved knuckle dusters to finish the job. He threatens to send Bali to heaven, which will destroy him unless he tells him how Mammon's going to do it. So the half-breed explains that the Spear of Destiny is still encrusted with Jesus' blood and will provide the divine assistance. John was only bluffing with the threats of sending him to heaven, as Balthazar has never asked for forgiveness, so it wouldn't have worked. Despite the demon's loyalty, he is refused resurrection by an unseen force and destroyed. Having left the protection charm Constantine gave her in the car and gone up to help, Angela is swiftly snatched up by the unseen servant of Mammon and dumped into the hospital therapy pool. She is dragged underwater by Manuel and taken to hell, where she briefly gets a glimpse of Mammon before he possesses her. John goes back to Midnight's club, and punches and shoots his way back into his office to demand his assistance. Papa don't play, as he continues to remain neutral while threatening John for his insolence, until Constantine informs him that their mutual friends Beeman and Hennessy were murdered by Balthazar. Midnight sits Constantine down in an electric chair from Sing Sing prison that's had hundreds of souls pass through it. Using it as a conduit, Constantine has visions of the spear being discovered in Mexico by Manuel, who is now residing at the hospital with Angie. Chaz melts down the holy relics they have on hand and turns them into slugs for the shotgun before they leave. After some quick prayers of good luck by midnight, John and Chaz go to the hospital together. They enter to the demonic language of black speak being chanted through the halls. They split up and Chaz uses a relic to bless the sprinkler system, while John sets it off to weaken the horde of Mammon's servants, making them vulnerable to weapons. After sending dozens of demons back home and finally running out of bullets, he is saved from the last one by Chaz. They locate Angela, already inhabited by Mammon, and John attempts to exorcise her. He manages to remove her mental passenger, but he begins to try to burst forth from her flesh. With the help of Chaz joining in on the prayers, they appear to succeed, but the invisible entity that took Angela quickly kills the young apprentice by throwing him around the room. John uses sigils tattooed on his arms to finally force it to reveal itself as Gabriel, resentful of God's favoritism towards humans, and the ease with which humans can receive forgiveness. Gabriel intends to unleash hell on earth so that those who survive will become what Gabby calls truly worthy of his embrace. She blows Constantine from the room to begin bringing Mammon back. Since God won't answer his prayers, Constantine slits his wrists, causing time to stop just as Gabriel is plunging the spear tip into Angela. Knowing that Satan would come personally to collect his soul, John attempts to bargain with the Lord of Darkness himself. Lucifer tells John he's the only human he would ever come all this way to collect himself, and brags about having an amusement park of horrors waiting for him on the other side. Constantine tells him that his son plans to defy the truce and is in the very next room over, so Lucy goes to check it out for himself. He saves Angela from the ritual, so Gabriel attempts to smite the ultimate adversary but is unable, revealing the angelic traitor to have been abandoned by God. Lucifer sends Mammon back to his bedroom to maintain the truce between heaven and hell, as he burns away Gabby's wings. In return for helping him, Constantine is owed a favor, but rather than asking for an extension to his own life, which is what Lucy expects, he asks that Isabel get transferred to heaven. Satan happily obliges without a second thought, as he has waited so long to finally get John downstairs to have his way with him. As he begins to drag him to hell, God prevents the transaction and heaven appears before them. Due to the selfless act of sacrificing his life for Isabel's, Constantine has earned passage into heaven. Angered by this, Lucy reaches inside of John, removing his cancers and healing his wrists, so that he has another chance to prove that he really belongs in hell. Constantine and Angela are both cured, and John retrieves the spear's head as the fallen angel wakes up. Gabriel is now human and attempts to convince John to commit murder, but he responds by introducing the now vulnerable to a swift punch in the face. With the world back to the way it was, John entrusts the spear to Angela and instructs her to hide it where no one can find it, not even himself. The two part ways, and John has now switched from smoking to chewing. Sometime later, Constantine visits Chaz's grave to tell him how great he did, leaving to reveal Chaz has become an angel and risen to heaven. And the movie ends. So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.